Level Up Your English, Level Up Your Life, your English listening practice podcast on real life situations to help you learn naturally and improve in all areas of life.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Level Up English, the place where we help you not just learn English, but truly master it and use it confidently in your everyday life. I'm your host, Grace.
And I'm Logan. We are absolutely thrilled to have you joining us today because we're tackling a topic that's on the minds of so many English learners: how to improve your English speaking fluency.
Exactly, Logan. We all dream of that moment where English flows effortlessly, where we can express our thoughts and ideas without hesitation. But getting there can sometimes feel like a long and winding road.
It can, Grace, but the good news is that it's absolutely achievable for everyone. And today we're going to break down practical, fun, and engaging ways to help you level up your speaking fluency.
And of course, no episode of Level Up English would be complete without our amazing vocabulary expert, Samantha. She'll be joining us a bit later to sprinkle in some linguistic gold.
That's right. So whether you're just starting your English journey or you're aiming for near-native fluency, grab your headphones, maybe a notebook, and get ready to unlock some powerful strategies.
So, Logan, let's dive right in. What's the first thing you think of when someone says they want to improve their speaking fluency?
For me, Grace, it's about moving beyond just knowing the words and actually being able to use them smoothly and naturally in conversation. It's not about being perfect, but about being able to communicate effectively without constantly stopping and thinking.
I totally agree. I think a lot of learners get caught up in the idea that fluency means never making mistakes. But that's simply not true. Even native speakers stumble over their words sometimes. Fluency is more about the rhythm, the flow, and the confidence with which you speak.
Absolutely. Think about it like learning to ride a bike. You might wobble and fall a few times, but eventually you get the hang of it and you can ride smoothly without even thinking about it. Speaking English is similar.
That's a great analogy, Logan. So, our first tip for improving your English speaking fluency is to shift your focus from perfection to progress. Embrace mistakes as learning opportunities. Every time you stumble, you're one step closer to finding your footing.
Exactly. And to help you on this journey, we need a strong foundation. That's where vocabulary comes in. And who better to guide us than our very own Samantha?
Hi Grace, hi Logan, and hello to all our wonderful listeners of the Level Up English podcast. I'm thrilled to be here to talk about vocabulary and how it directly impacts your speaking fluency.
Welcome, Samantha. So, how can learners actively build their vocabulary in a way that helps them speak more fluently?
Well, Grace, it's not just about memorizing long lists of words. It's about understanding how those words are used in real-life contexts. My first tip is to learn vocabulary in chunks or phrases. Instead of just learning the word quickly, try learning phrases like quickly grab a coffee or quickly respond to an email. This helps you understand the natural collocations of words.
That makes so much sense, Samantha. It's like learning the ingredients for a recipe rather than just individual spices.
Precisely, Logan. Another effective method is to actively use new vocabulary in your own speaking and writing. Don't just passively read or hear a new word. Make a conscious effort to incorporate it into your conversations or when you're practicing writing in English. For example, if you learn the word meticulous, try describing a meticulous friend or a meticulous process you followed.
That's great advice, Samantha. It's all about active engagement with the language.
Exactly. And don't forget the power of context. When you encounter a new word, try to understand its meaning from the surrounding sentences. This not only helps you grasp the definition, but also how it's used in a specific situation. Think about reading a news article and coming across an unfamiliar word. Instead of immediately reaching for a dictionary, try to infer its meaning from the rest of the paragraph.
So it's like becoming a word detective.
Absolutely. And finally, Review your vocabulary regularly. Use flashcards, create vocabulary notebooks, or use language learning apps that incorporate spaced repetition. This helps to solidify the new words in your long-term memory, making them readily available when you need them in a conversation.
Fantastic tip, Samantha. Thank you so much.
So, we've talked about building a strong vocabulary foundation. What's the next crucial step in improving speaking fluency, Grace?
Without a doubt, Logan, it's consistent practice. You can know all the grammar rules and have a vast vocabulary, but if you don't actually speak, you won't become fluent. It's like wanting to be a good swimmer, but never getting in the water.
That's so true. And practice doesn't always have to be in a formal setting. Think about talking to yourself in English. It might sound a little strange at first, but it's a fantastic way to practice forming sentences and getting comfortable with the sound of your own voice speaking English. You can describe your day, narrate what you're doing, or even have imaginary conversations.
I do that all the time. It's like having a private English-speaking buddy who's always available. Another great way to practice is to find a language exchange partner or join an English conversation club. There are tons of online platforms and local groups where you can connect with other learners or native speakers who are willing to practice with you.
Absolutely. And don't underestimate the power of reading aloud in English. Choose articles, stories, or even transcripts of your favorite Level Up English podcast episodes and read them out loud. This helps you improve your pronunciation, intonation, and overall flow.
That's a brilliant idea, Logan. It's like exercising your vocal cords for English. And for those who might be a bit shy about speaking to others, even recording yourself, speaking English can be incredibly beneficial. You can then listen back and identify areas where you can improve.
That's a great way to get objective feedback, even if it's just from yourself.
Now, Logan, another key aspect of improving fluency is immersion.
Yes, Grace. Surrounding yourself with the English language as much as possible is crucial. This means not just studying English, but also actively engaging with English content in your daily life.
Exactly. Think about watching movies and TV shows in English. Start with subtitles in your native language if you need to, then switch to English subtitles, and eventually try watching without subtitles altogether. Pay attention to how native speakers naturally talk, their intonation, and the expressions they use.
And don't forget about listening to English music and podcasts. The Level Up English podcast, of course, is a fantastic resource. Listen to episodes on topics that interest you and try to pick up new vocabulary and sentence structures. You can listen while you're commuting, exercising, or doing household chores.
Absolutely. And reading English books, newspapers, and blogs is another excellent way to immerse yourself in the language. Choose materials that are at a comfortable level for you and gradually challenge yourself with more complex texts.
And it's not just about passively consuming content, is it, Grace? It's also about active listening.
You're spot on, Logan. When you're listening to English, don't just let the words wash over you. Actively try to understand the meaning, pay attention to the nuances of the language, and notice how different speakers pronounce words and use intonation.
And try to mimic what you hear. If you hear a phrase or sentence that you like, try repeating it out loud, paying attention to the rhythm and intonation. This can really help you develop a more natural speaking style.
Now, Samantha, we often hear learners say that they struggle with thinking in English. Do you have any tips on how to overcome this and start thinking directly in English?
Absolutely, Grace. This is a common challenge, but with practice, it's definitely achievable. One effective technique is to start by thinking in simple English sentences about your immediate surroundings. For example, instead of thinking in your native language, the coffee is hot, try to think, the coffee is hot. Start with simple observations and gradually progress to more complex thoughts.
That sounds like a great starting point, Samantha.
Another helpful strategy is to label objects around you in English. Put sticky notes with English words on everyday items like your desk. your chair, or your refrigerator. This constant visual reminder helps to reinforce the English vocabulary and encourages you to think in English.
That's a clever idea.
And when you're learning new vocabulary, try to associate the English word directly with the concept or image and translating it back to your native language. For example, when you learn the word apple, picture an apple in your mind instead of thinking of its equivalent in your first language.
So it's about creating a direct link between the English word and the meaning.
Exactly, Logan. And finally, practice narrating your day in English in your head. As you go about your daily activities, try to think about what you're doing, seeing, and feeling in English. This helps to make thinking in English a more natural and automatic process.
Fantastic advice, Samantha. Thank you.
Now, Grace, let's talk about something that holds many learners back, the fear of making mistakes.
Oh, the infamous fear. It's something we all experience, but it's so important not to let it paralyze you. Remember what we said earlier, mistakes are a natural part of the learning process. Everyone makes them, even native speakers. The key is to not let the fear of imperfection stop you from speaking altogether.
Absolutely. And one way to overcome this fear is to reframe your perspective on mistakes. Instead of seeing them as failures, view them as valuable feedback. Every mistake you make is an opportunity to learn and improve.
That's so important, Logan. And focus on the positive aspects of communication. Even if you make a few grammatical errors or mispronounce a word, if you're able to convey your message and connect with the other person, that's a success.
Exactly. And start small. If you're feeling nervous about speaking in front of a group, begin by practicing with a language exchange partner or in a small, supportive environment. Gradually build your confidence as you become more comfortable.
And remember to be kind to yourself. Learning a new language takes time and effort. Don't get discouraged by setbacks. Celebrate your progress no matter how small it may seem.
Samantha, pronunciation and intonation play a huge role in speaking fluency. What tips do you have for our listeners on improving these aspects?
You're absolutely right, Logan. Clear pronunciation and natural intonation are crucial for being easily understood and sounding more fluent. My first tip is to pay close attention to the pronunciation of individual sounds. There are many online resources and pronunciation guides that can help you with this. Focus on the sounds that are different from those in your native language.
That's a great point, Samantha. Some sounds can be particularly tricky for certain language backgrounds.
Exactly. Another effective technique is to listen to native speakers and try to imitate their pronunciation and intonation patterns. Pay attention to which syllables they stress, how their voice rises and falls, and the rhythm of their speech.
So, it's like becoming a language mimic.
Precisely. You can also use online dictionaries and pronunciation tools that allow you to hear how words are pronounced correctly. Many of these tools also show you the phonetic transcription of words, which can be very helpful.
And what about intonation, Samantha?
Intonation is the melody of your speech. It conveys meaning and emotion. To improve your intonation, listen carefully to how native speakers use intonation in different situations. Notice how their voice rises at the end of questions and falls at the end of statements. Try to incorporate these patterns into your own speech.
That's so important for sounding natural.
Absolutely. And finally, record yourself speaking and then compare it to recordings of native speakers. This can help you identify areas where your pronunciation or intonation needs improvement.
Logan, technology has revolutionized language learning. How can our listeners leverage technology to improve their speaking fluency?
There are so many fantastic tools available, Grace. Language learning apps like Duolingo, Babbel, and Memrise often have speaking exercises that can help you practice pronunciation and sentence formation.
And online tutoring platforms like italki and Verbling connect you with native English teachers who can provide personalized feedback and speaking practice.
Exactly. And don't forget about voice recording apps. We mentioned this earlier, but it's worth reiterating. Use these apps to record yourself speaking and track your progress over time.
And online video platforms like YouTube are a treasure trove of English learning content, including lessons on pronunciation, grammar, and conversational skills. Subscribe to channels like Level Up English for regular doses of helpful content.
Absolutely. And voice assistants like Siri or Google Assistant can also be surprisingly useful. You can practice asking them questions or giving them commands in English.
So we've covered a lot of ground, Logan. But ultimately, learning should be enjoyable, right? How can our listeners make improving their speaking fluency a fun and engaging process?
Absolutely, Grace. Learning shouldn't feel like a chore. One great way to make it fun is to incorporate your hobbies and interests into your English practice. If you love cooking, try watching English cooking shows and describing recipes in English. If you're into gaming, try playing video games in English and interacting with other players.
That's a fantastic idea. And role-playing can be a really fun and effective way to practice different conversational scenarios. You can pretend to be ordering food at a restaurant, checking into a hotel, or having a job interview.
Definitely. And storytelling is another engaging way to improve your fluency. Try retelling your favorite stories or even making up new ones in English. This helps you practice using different verb tenses and connecting your thoughts in a coherent way.
And participating in English discussions or debates on topics that interest you can be a great way to challenge yourself and improve your ability to express your opinions in English.
Exactly. Find online forums or discussion groups where you can share your thoughts and interact with other English speakers.
And now for our vocabulary boost. Here are a few words and phrases related to fluency that you might find helpful. Effortlessly, meaning without difficulty or requiring much effort. Example, she spoke English effortlessly, even though she had only been learning for a year. Hesitation, a pause or uncertainty in speech or action. Example, there was a slight hesitation before he answered the question in English. Flow, the continuous movement or progression of speech. Example, he was impressed by the natural flow of her English. Stumble over words to speak or say something with pauses or mistakes. Example, it's okay to stumble over words sometimes when you're speaking a new language. Convey your message to communicate or express something effectively. Example, even with a few mistakes, she was able to convey her message clearly. Try incorporating these words and phrases into your conversations this week.
Thank you so much, Samantha. Those are incredibly useful words.
Absolutely. So to recap, everyone, remember that improving your English speaking fluency is a journey, not a destination. Be patient with yourself, embrace mistakes, and most importantly, keep practicing.
Focus on progress over perfection. Build your vocabulary. Actively practice consistently in various ways. Immerse yourself in the language. Learn to think in English. Don't let fear hold you back. Pay attention to pronunciation and intonation. Utilize the amazing technology available, and most importantly, make it fun.
And remember to check out the Level Up English podcast for more tips, tricks, and engaging lessons to help you on your English learning adventure. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep speaking. We'll catch you in the next episode.
And now, if you're ready to master the art of keeping conversations going, just click on the video that's appearing on your screen right now. You won't want to miss it.